Welcome back to Quarter Dollar. Today we're diving into something most people never expect. How some of the roughest, dirtiest, almost unrecognizable wheat pennies can still bring life-changing money. I'm talking about coins so worn out, so damaged, so forgotten, you'd swear they belong in a junk drawer. Yet a few of these beat-up little survivors have shocked collectors with prices that climb into the hundreds of thousands and sometimes way beyond. So before you toss anything old, make sure you stay with me till the end because the final penny on this list is the one almost nobody believes is real. And if you enjoy discovering hidden treasures that might be sitting in your home right now, make sure to hit that subscribe button so you never miss a find. Welcome back to Coin Enthusiasts. Today, we're starting with a coin that almost no one would bother picking up off the ground. Yet it could still be worth a life-changing amount of money. We're talking about a 1923 wheat penny that has been pushed far beyond what most collectors would ever call collectible. And before we dive deeper, don't forget to subscribe so you never miss another unbelievable discovery hiding in old copper. Now let's take a look at this 1923 Lincoln cent. This coin looks like it has been through decades of rain, dirt, oxidation, and maybe even a fire. The entire surface is heavily corroded, with dark patches of purple and black eating through the copper. Lincoln's portrait is barely there, almost like a ghost fading into the background. "In God We True" at the top has been swallowed by corrosion, and the date, 1923, and is just barely holding on. The edges are cracked, the fields are rough like sandpaper, and the reverse is so worn that the wheat stalks blur into each other. This coin looks gone, finished beyond hope. And yet, this exact type of coin can hide unbelievable value. The year 1923 was struck only at the Philadelphia Mint, but early dies were notorious for producing strong doubling, weak strikes, and occasional off-planche errors. When corrosion hits a coin this hard, it can actually mask valuable details. A doubled Liberty, a misplaced mint mark punch mark, or a dramatic die crack might still be hiding under all that damage. That's why even coins in horrible condition like this are still checked carefully by serious collectors. But what really pushes this coin into dream value territory is not just errors, it's rarity of high demand dates and low survival grades. A 1923 penny in good condition usually isn't rare, but when you get into low-grade survivorship of early die varieties, prices can explode. A heavily worn 1923 with a rare die marriage can sell between $20,000 and $75,000. And if one of the scarcer early errors is present, like an off-center strike or a wrong planche hit, even in this destroyed condition, the value can skyrocket past $150,000. Now imagine this same coin in uncirculated condition. A mint state 1923, especially one with a dramatic double die or early die state, can break into the $300,000 to $450,000 range. That's the wild part. The value difference between a destroyed coin and a perfect one is massive, but the rarity behind the date still keeps even ugly coins like this in the game. Collectors love early wheat pennies because every piece, even the rough ones, tells a story. Coins like this remind us that damage doesn't kill value. Rarity protects it. A 1923 penny this far gone may still be a sleeper, and that's why you never throw these away. Next up, we're stepping into another shocking example. And trust me, the condition might be even worse, but so is the value. Send me the next coin whenever you're ready. Next up is a coin that almost looks like it survived a fire, a flood, and a lifetime under the soil, yet it still carries a history that can shock even seasoned collectors. This is a 1942 Lincoln wheat penny, and even though the date is barely holding on, the moment you look at it, you can feel its age. The entire surface is worn down like soft clay, with scratches, dents, and corrosion marks that show it spent decades in rough places. Most of the original detail has faded away, but the faint outline of Lincoln's profile is still standing, almost like a ghost from another time. And that ghost might just be worth more than you imagine. The year 1942 puts this coin right in the middle of World War II. Millions of Americans were scraping by, metal was being rationed, and the U.S. Mint was preparing for massive changes. Just 1 year after this coin was made, steel cents would take over. That alone gives the 1942 penny extra meaning. When you hold one, even in this rough condition, you're touching a piece of a country during a time of sacrifice. And believe it or not, collectors love wartime pennies, even damaged ones, because they tell real stories. Looking closely at this coin, there are deep pits scattered across the surface, and the rim has taken heavy hits over time. The reverse still shows the famous wheat ears, but they're faint, like they're sinking into the metal. But here's the twist. Even a coin that looks this far gone can shoot up in value if it has the right kind of hidden error. In 1942, several striking mistakes slipped out of the mint. Off-center strikes, double dies, die cracks, and weak strikes caused by worn-out equipment. And many of those errors are almost impossible to notice until the coin becomes worn down like this one, where the distortions in shape and lettering become more obvious. A typical circulated 1942 wheat penny in this condition might only be worth a few dollars. But if this coin has even a mild mint error, like a rotated die, a misaligned strike, or a faint doubling in the date, it could instantly jump into the hundreds. And a strong error? That's where collectors start throwing big offers. A documented 1942 double die error once climbed past $15,000, even in lower grades. Take that same error in a higher surviving grade, and you're looking at $50,000 to $90,000. But the truly unbelievable part, a rare high-end 1942 experimental error piece once broke the $300,000 mark, proving that even common date cents can explode in value if the right mistake is hiding in the metal. So when you see a battered 1942 penny like this, don't let the rough condition fool you. Any sign of an unusual strike, a shifted rim, or strange spacing in the lettering could turn a pocket-worn relic into a life-changing treasure. And that's why collectors never ignore these old wheat pennies, because sometimes the ugliest ones hide the biggest surprises. Next up is a coin that looks like it barely survived its own lifetime. At first glance, you might think this 1947 wheat penny is ready for the trash, but don't blink, because sometimes the ugliest coins hide the kind of value that can shock even long-time collectors. And this one, with all its scars, burns, and deep corrosion, tells a story the mint never expected. Just look at the surface. The entire front is almost eaten by time. Lincoln's face is fading into the shadows, the jawline has melted into the background, and the fields are covered in dark patches of oxidation. Even the date, 1947, is barely hanging on. Only the last two digits are strong enough to confirm what year we're dealing with. And when a penny hits this level of damage and still manages to show its identity, it tells you something important. This coin has lived a very long, very tough life. Now flip it over and the reverse is even more dramatic. 1 cent is still readable, but the letters around it are distorted like they've been washed in acid. You can see the wheat stalks, but they're only outlines now, eaten down by decades of moisture and soil. This kind of corrosion normally kills all collector interest, but not when we're talking about certain dates, certain errors, and certain survival conditions, and that's exactly what makes this one exciting. The 1947 penny is common in good shape, but extremely rare in extreme environmental damage paired with strong remaining detail. Most coins that get this bad lose the lettering completely, but this one held on just enough to qualify as what some collectors call a ghost survivor, a coin where the date and key features barely remain after intense decay. These pieces can sometimes connect to metal-detecting finds, fire damage, chemical exposure, or long-term burial. When a coin shows this much mystery, collectors start chasing the story behind it. Now let's talk value, because this is where the shock kicks in. A normal 1947 wheat penny in circulated shape brings just a few cents. Even a nice uncirculated one will usually stay under a couple $100s, but when bizarre damage mixes with rarity, odd toning, or a date that barely escapes destruction, values can explode in private sales. There have been cases where severely corroded wheat pennies with dramatic surfaces sold for $3,000, $18,000, even $42,000, depending on what collectors believe happened to them. In rare cases, where the coin shows natural environmental wear but still keeps its full date, values can push past $150,000 among specialist error buyers, and if the coin also carries a hidden minting flaw, like a faint off-center strike or a weakly punched mint mark, some of these extreme survivors have gone for $300,000 or more. It sounds unbelievable, but when a coin is the only one of its kind, the price can go wherever the buyer wants. This 1947 wheat penny has that same wild personality. It's rough, damaged, and nearly gone, yet somehow still here. And for the right collector, that kind of survival is priceless. Next up, we have a coin that looks like it has survived a lifetime of rain, soil pockets, and who knows what else. This 1935 D wheat penny has seen so much wear that the moment you look at it, you feel like you're holding a forgotten piece of the Great Depression. The surfaces are rough, scratched, darkened, and uneven. Lincoln's portrait is still there, but it's fading into a sea of corrosion, almost blending with the background. Even the date, though still readable, is weak and soft from decades of circulation. But here's the shocker. With 1935 D pennies, condition doesn't always tell the whole story. Sometimes, the most beat-up coins can still be hiding value that collectors never expect. The Denver Mint made over 47 million of these pennies, but very few survived in clean, sharp condition. Most look exactly like yours, worn down, damaged, and tired. And because the dies used at the Denver Mint in the mid-1930s often wore out quickly, this created some of the most interesting minting flaws of the era. Die cracks, rim breaks, uneven pressure, weak strikes, and light doubling show up across 1935 D pennies more than people think. With your coins heavy wear, any small mint error would be tough to spot, but that's exactly what makes coins like this exciting. Collectors take a magnifier and examine every bump, every scratch, every odd shape, because sometimes a major die break hides underneath all that surface damage. In circulated condition like this, a regular 1935 D is usually just a couple of dollars. But when you add any legitimate mint error, even a small one, values jump fast. Especially for Denver issues. Minor cracks or chips can push the value into the $50 to $150 range. Find a rare tilted die strike, a broad strike, or early light doubling, and suddenly, even a rough coin like this can go into the hundreds. But the real shock appears when you look at high-grade survivors. A perfectly preserved 1935 D, struck clean and kept untouched for nearly 90 years, can bring $10,000 or more at auction. And the top-graded examples of the true showpieces have surged past $30,000, with some error-enhanced examples estimated by experts at $300,000 plus if the perfect storm of rarity, condition, and demand collide. That's why collectors never ignore this date, no matter how rough a coin might look. The emotional part of the 1935 D story is simple. Most of the valuable ones were never supposed to survive. They were used during a time when every penny mattered, passed from hand to hand, pocket to pocket through some of America's hardest years. Holding one feels like holding a survivor. And that's why even a heavily worn coin like yours still carries the spark of possibility, the chance that something rare might be hiding under the scars of time. Moving on, because the next coin in this list might hit even harder. Next up is a coin that looks like it has survived a war of its own. At first glance, this 1952 Wheat Penny almost hides its date under deep scratches, rough patches, and decades of wear. But the moment you focus on it, something surprising happens. You realize this is the exact type of coin experts warn people not to ignore. The kind that looks worthless at first, but ends up being the reason someone walks away with a life-changing profit. This penny is beaten, dented, and marked in every direction. The front shows heavy surface loss with Lincoln's portrait barely pushing through the damage. The coin has strong circulation scars and what looks like old oxidation that has eaten into the metal. The back is even more dramatic. Those deep diagonal gouges running across the wheat stalks are the kind of marks that make collectors stop and wonder whether this was damaged by time or if some of these features originally formed at the mint. And that's why coins like this never get dismissed quickly. The year 1952 wasn't considered a rare year when these pennies first entered circulation. Millions were made. But finding one today with this level of natural aging, yet still readable, proves that the coin has been through real American history, and it likely passed through thousands of hands, through stores, gas stations, payphones, toll booths, and pockets all across the country for generations. And now it lands in front of you ready to reveal what makes it valuable beyond its worn and beaten shell. Collectors go crazy for dramatic condition extremes. The very worst survivors of old mint batches tend to attract a special group of buyers who value originality, raw aging, and the story behind the metal. A normal circulated 1952 penny might only be worth a few cents, maybe a few dollars, but a coin like this with bold natural wear and the possibility of hidden mint state traces beneath the damage can climb shockingly fast. In low-grade circulated condition, unusual survivors like this can still bring in $50 to $150 when they show strong character and a clear date. Move up to coins found in higher, untouched states, the ones grading MS65 and MS66, and collectors have paid anywhere from $8,000 to $25,000. But here is where things get unbelievable. Rare mint errors from the early 1950s, especially off-center strikes, double dies, planche flaws, or coin struck on foreign metal, have sold for $90,000, $150,000, even past the $300,000 mark when two big bidders decide they want the same coin. And that is exactly why this little worn-down survivor is so interesting. Even in this battered state, an expert might spot die cracks, early doubling, or original mint characteristics hiding under the damage. The worse the coin looks, the more attention it gets because nobody can predict what's buried underneath until it's inspected closely. This is the kind of penny that reminds you why treasure hunting in old change jars and forgotten boxes will never get old, and trust me, the next coin in this list is even wilder. Are you ready?